I'm Josh Minnie. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at OWC, Other World Computing. And for the past 5 years, myself and my formidable team have been running a company called LumaForge. If you're in the video space, if you're seeing this on Production Hub, you may have heard of us. We have a product called the Jellyfish. So we've been known as the Jellyfish people for the last several years. And this is actually the first interview I'm doing to kind of talk about where we're going and what's pretty exciting about joining a company like OWC. So, like I said, for the past 5 years, we set out to solve a video problem. How does a video team collaborate and work together on a project? For us, the idea of having everybody sitting there with a RAID on their desk and passing media back and forth, it was a slow process, dealing with SneakerNet, passing drives around to teams. And what we realized is that, the kind of the Hollywood market, we're in Los Angeles. We kind of know the world of professional video, but we also realized that every company in the world, and that's an exaggeration, but companies are building video teams. If you don't know how to communicate with video right now, you're falling behind. And we realized that, we brought this product out, kind of rumbling around here, but we brought a product out called the Jellyfish. And the goal of the Jellyfish was to kind of be a big hard drive that a whole team could plug into, right? Ultimately, it's a NAS, it's network attached storage. And what that means is you can get an entire, anywhere from 2 to 200 editors can plug into this box with an Ethernet cable and have access to your entire library. And the Jellyfish, they're small ones. They can sit on your desk. They got a little handle on it. We call that the mobile. There's a tower version, which is a 20 bay, kind of like same form factors like the new Mac Pro, right? Kind of like a tall chassis that sits in your office. Or you've got a bigger solution that would go into a server room. And we realized that early on, not a lot of these companies had a server room or the video team wasn't close to it. So when I'm talking about companies, I'm talking about Google, Apple, Pandora, Intel, companies we know, we work that are getting into video or have gotten into video and hit that pain point of we need to make more content faster, because it's a different game. It's not about, hey, we've got 24 months to make one movie and we got $200 million to do it. It's, I need 500 pieces of content out in the next year, right? And this is from 2-minute to 10-minute, interview style stuff, product videos, all this. Like, the world is video now. And also we sell into the, there are a lot of YouTubers that use this, and that's kind of a similar workflow. If you've got someone like MKBHD, Marquez Brownlee, who's creating tons of content every month, every year. iJustine also putting out tons of content. Like, what you don't see is it's not, it started as an individual with a webcam, but it's a full-blown production at this point, and they're cranking out tons of content. So for us, it was, how do we take this complex problem, which is ultimately, we're talking networking, we're talking storage, and computing, and make this as easy and approachable as possible. So that's kind of the genesis of the Jellyfish product. And it's been a hit. Now, the challenge for us, though, is that being hyper-focused on one product and solving one problem. We love to solve problems. That's kind of a trope that you hear from a lot of companies. But for us, the majority of our team comes from a video background, comes from production, and knows these pain points, knows how frustrating it is to sit there and wait for a file to copy, right? And knows how frustrating it is to be looking for that one shot that you had, or we've got to pull some B-roll that's on a drive somewhere in the closet, right? So we understand that problem. We were just limited in the scope of the problem we could solve, because ultimately we had no control over the hard drive that media came off of, and then we have no control over backup, right? So it's great, we give you 50 terabytes where you can store tons of this media, but hey, at the end of the day, these are hard drives. If you're in production, you understand that hard drives fail, things happen, fires, floods, power outages, anything can happen. And so we were finding ourselves just kind of telling our customers, well, we don't really solve backup. We don't really have shuttle drives. That's not really what we do. But once you get into our system, we can take care of you. Now, with OWC, who's kind of like a legendary brand for almost 35 years now, with them taking over LumaForge and our team and having this wide breadth of products, everything from, SSDs that you can be recording off, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema, to now having the shared storage that, every line of every piece of the puzzle, I guess, for the content creation pipeline. And the Jellyfish being, where the media lives when you're actively working on it and, cutting your video together. And now we can also solve a backup problem. So Larry, the founder of OWC, did a really smart thing. He bought a product called Brew by the Tollus Group. And what the Tollus Group does is they solve backup, right? And Tollus Groups are expert in the world of LTO. Gentleman named Tim Jones, he came on to OWC a couple months before the LumaForge acquisition happened. And collectively, we're building out, like I said, this end-to-end pipeline for storing your media from kind of like, camera all the way to cloud, and all the steps in between. So hugely exciting, growing our product line. For us, we've been, when someone would call us and say, why would you want a Jellyfish? We're like, well, you don't want a bunch of raids sitting on your desk. We're like, well, raids actually serve a really important part of the puzzle. But when we were LumaForge, who needs a raid when you can get a Jellyfish? But in reality, they're hugely important. And now OWC has had a huge line of RAID products, right? And direct attached storage. So it allows us to continue to focus on the customer and deliver this experience without sending you, we solved a really hard part of the problem, which is the storage and the networking thing to give you collaboration. But now we can solve the entire process. And knowing that your data is secure, because there's, in the storage world, they talk about data, but in our world, we talk about footage, right? And like you had an entire team that came together to make this piece of content. You sort of captured lightning in a bottle. There's no going back, right? Like we don't want to reshoot because you lost your footage. So this is a team that, cares immensely about the creative process and kind of wants the technology to get out of the way when you're working on it, but also to be extremely reliable and know that you've got that shot and you can find it anytime. So between OWC and LumaForge and the Tollus Group acquisition, I think we're going to be a pretty formidable force in 2021 and 2022 and ongoing, especially in the time of COVID, right? Like this has thrown a wrench in the gears. We build a product, the Jellyfish, that it works in an office. Well, what happened a year ago when everybody went home? Well, the Jellyfish really is kind of a giant cloud. It just lives at your office. So we've been working on a remote feature, kind of been in the works for 6 months prior to COVID. It was on our to-do list. And then suddenly March 14th, stay at home comes and we start getting calls, honestly, where it's they're about to let our entire video team go because we can't do work. And the MJ Doug, and we took that personally. So we immediately rolled out our remote access feature. So now you can connect to the Jellyfish from your Mac anywhere in the world and have access to all that media. Now that poses another problem because we always like to tell people you can work in your original media. We want you to work in 4K. We don't really love proxies if you don't have to. If you're connected and you've got 4K red footage, you should be able to play that back in your NLE. Well, now you're working from home. You're dealing with the internet. I don't know where you are in LA, but I'm dealing with a Spectrum outage for the last 4 days. So I've had spotty internet, just because of wind. Now proxies are hugely important. So we rolled out another feature called Media Engine. We partnered with a company called Kino that makes the best, they kind of call it an anti-MAM, but it's asset management, but it's also just a multi-tool that does, transcoding and batch level processes to entire, libraries. And now the Jellyfish itself, it's a really big server, it's a computer. We can take all that red footage, transcode it automatically on the Jellyfish at your office, and now you can dial in and through your NLE mounted to the Jellyfish, you can access in lightweight proxy footage. So big challenges with COVID, but it's helped us to really roll out a bunch of features. And now we're just kind of living in the new world of things are going to be remote. You have to be able to solve that problem. And now backup becomes a big part of that because now we're talking about tape, cloud, you're creating this media in all sorts of different ways, but we've had quote unquote virtual productions that have happened here. And, the producers are 2,000 miles away. It's an interesting time, but I don't think there's any going back. So being able to be nimble and solve lots of these parts of the problem collectively, under one roof, I think is pretty exciting. If you've known us as LumaForge, or if you know OWC, or if you know the Tollus Group and Brew, same team, new place. If you're an existing Jellyfish customer or a Tollus Group customer, an OWC customer, you're going to have the same faces and same names you've been working with. same awesome support, just a broader product line. And I think you'll be able to do a lot more business with OWC because we want to help solve these problems. So we're here. You can reach out to us at any time. You can access us through LumaForge, access us through OWC. It's going to be an exciting few years.